Well, I agree with the need for debt restructuring. Part of what we did last month in passing an income tax increase contemplated that we would do a debt restructuring so we can pay our bills on time, keep businesses' doors open, keep service providers' doors open, and it's an urgent necessity, and it's an urgent there's an urgent need for us to act on it. I think his call for tax fairness was an important call for tax fairness. That's why I've introduced a constitutional amendment for a progressive income tax. Chicago, we have the highest sales tax in the country. In the state of Illinois, we have a very regressive overall tax structure, and I was happy that the governor called for tax fairness. He called for consolidation of local government. I think that was another call for efficiency in government overall, and I think it's important that we show an example at the state level, and that's why I introduced a constitutional amendment to combine the treasurer and the comptroller's office. Before we ask local government to do it, let's demonstrate that we could do it at the state level. So I liked what I heard from the governor. He called for efficiencies, and I'm willing to support that. Workers' compensation reform is one of the other areas that the governor is working on, and I'm working on with him. We need to look at all of these areas where we could be efficient. While we're doing that, we must be mindful that immediately we need to be able to pay our vendors, and it's important to the economy of the state of Illinois.
Okay. Is there anything from the governor's address that you think will be extremely controversial? Do you have any specific concerns?
Well, obviously the debt restructuring is going to be controversial. It's going to be difficult to get the bipartisan support that is needed for that, but there's an urgency. And we realize that different folks within the General Assembly are asking for us to tackle issues. We've tackled Medicaid reform. We've tackled pension reform. We're working on workers' compensation reform. So we've shown a commitment to making government more efficient, and in return for that, I think the people of the state of Illinois deserve to have the vendors and the service providers paid on time so they could keep their doors open and so they can continue offering the much-needed services to the people of the state of Illinois.
Okay. Now, having heard what he has to say, where do we go from here?
We've got to go. I think he's got to be active in reaching out to individual legislators and getting them on board with the debt restructuring. He's got to be active in reaching out to individual legislators with this very difficult issue of workers' compensation reform. And he's got to be a very active governor reaching out to individual legislators on both sides of the aisle. We're having very good discussions in his office with representation from all caucuses, bipartisan discussions on workers' compensation reform. But in addition to that, there's got to be immediate activity and immediate outreach from the governor's office to various legislators.